What up? It's Jack, aka Just a Cunt here, and today we will be talking about what is objectively the top 10 greatest fighters of all time. There's been a lot of lists dropping. Tracy decides to stream out of the blue, decides to drop a bomb on all of us, decides to drop some lore for us. New update, Pirion is top 10 all time for losing to Murad by 50-45. Kenny Okoye, Kamaru Usman is greater than GSP and is top 5 for beating Colby Chaos Covington by a comeback TKO and a robbery in the second fight. Congratulations, we have been truly educated. Nonetheless, being serious, I wanted to start off this by mentioning what is my criteria, what I feel a lot of these other big YouTubers miss, and as to why I think, for the most part, they tend to be very biased in one way or tend to not fully understand why certain fighters get the benefit of the doubt or are where they're at. So, starting off, number one criteria for my GOAT list is wins. Who have you beat? That is number one. But tied for number one is as well as your performance, right? I don't just go by name values. Your wins and your performances are what matters most. What I feel Tracy and Kenny Okoye do is they will spend all day bickering over what are wins, what are not wins. You know, Tracy will say Robert Whittaker beat Israel Adesanya. Kenny will be like, no, the judges said that this, or if you rewatch the fight this, I think they're both missing the point. Look at the performance, look at the skills, see what's displayed, take that into account when making a GOAT list. So, number one is wins. Tied with wins is performances. Number three is going to be longevity and consistency. What a lot of fighters will end up missing out on the higher positions in this GOAT list is that they will be inconsistent. They'll have losses, they'll have close fights they should have won, or they'll have certain performances that poke holes in their legacy. This is something that I also feel that especially Tracy will miss out on. While yes, I do feel that wins are the most important, simply having better names on your resume, as you will see with a lot of fighters, such as my honorable mentions, or such as the lower ranked guys, or even some that aren't on this list, if you cannot consistently put on good performances, if you don't consistently evolve your game, for example, Henry Cejudo, someone who wasn't consistent in his career, came off with some losses, didn't evolve his game. Conor McGregor didn't evolve his game. At the end of the day, this will take away from your GOAT list. And more importantly, I will not give the benefit of the doubt to certain fighters who unfortunately could not maintain their greatness. With that being said, I will elaborate more on specific criteria of here with examples as I go up the GOAT list. This is going to be the top 10. I don't feel like doing top 50. Honestly, I feel like as soon as you get out the top 15-ish, a lot of it starts to blend together and starts to be very opinionated. To me, from 9 and up, I feel pretty confident in terms of being the main names you'd have in this discussion. Number 10, though, I feel can be switched around a little bit. Starting off, though, with number 10, Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman. Now I know I was just ragging on him a little bit, saying he only beat Colby twice, but what Usman's strengths are as a GOAT are longevity. He is one of the highest win streaks of all time, right below Anderson Silva, right there with Islam. He has great dominance, great performances. Wins over Tyron Woodley are really good. I would say even his wins over Gilbert Burns are very good. I would say that in general, he is a good blend of older fighters and newer fighters, and he has come back at 38 with injuries and beat a top contender who is Joaquin Buckley. And if Joaquin Buckley was to win, he would have been just in line for a title. So I think his biggest strengths are longevity, dominance, well-rounded skill set. I forgot to mention that skill set as well that will detract from other people. Alex Pereira is someone who I feel doesn't have a well-rounded enough skill set that I'm not going to give the benefit of the doubt, and I feel as if his GOAT criteria is diminished. Kamaru Usman, incredibly well-rounded. Good striking, good grappling. Don't feel like he can be just beaten in any aspect. He has great performances, I would say, against Hamzat as well. Whether you want to argue it's a win or loss, I feel looking at the performance, coming off a short notice, I believe it's about a week, I forget the exact day, I think it's about a week, against in a new division that he's never fought at that level, against Hamzat Chimaev, and surviving and arguably getting a draw. I think that's incredibly beneficial to his GOAT case. Coming to Joaquin Buckley, dominated him in the grappling, I think is incredibly impressive against a very young, powerful guy. I think being able to have 5 title defenses, very impressive. Now, what detracts from Kamaru Usman for me is he does not have the strongest wins for me to justify putting him above. For example, Colby Covington is probably his best win. And while I do feel Colby Covington was at his best when he fought Usman, he also hasn't shown to be better than any other contender. Kamaru Usman also did struggle with Colby in both of the fights. In the first fight, he was arguably down before getting the finish. Probably still would have gotten, even if it went to a decision, probably would have gotten the win or a draw at the very least, but was getting hit, was getting hurt, was brawling with Colby. He wasn't dominating Colby in that first fight. Second fight was doing good early. It dropped Colby a lot, but then Aryu had a very close competitive fight. As the fight went on, Colby was able to rally, land a lot of volume, make it a very close competitive fight. Gilbert Burns did drop him. To me, I'm not going to hold that too much against Usman, particularly because he did end up KOing Burns and did look to be the much better fighter, was able to land the jab. To me, getting caught early is not as detrimental as losing or being outskilled that he kind of did with Colby. Jorge Masvidal did dominate in both fights, but I don't hold Jorge Masvidal in the highest of regards. He's not someone that I value too highly enough for me to justify putting him up. To me, Kamaru is very similar to legacy was Israel Adesanya, Francis Ngannou, and Stipe. You can put these guys, but what I feel he has above Israel Adesanya, Stipe Miocic, and Francis Ngannou is one, I generally hold welterweights in a higher regard than I do middleweights and heavyweights skill-wise. This includes this competition. I consider Colby a better win than someone like Marvin Vettori. Now, you can argue that Israel Adesanya had a better performance against Marvin Vettori than Kamaru Usman did against Colby Covington, and then you can put him up there. Israel has better all-time wins. Alex Pereira, Robert Whittaker, I'd say are probably better than pretty much all of Usman's wins. And Francis Ngannou, he has some great wins, but heavyweights in general, it's difficult for me to put them above someone like Usman, just by virtue of them just overall having a less skilled. But you can argue Stipe, Francis, Israel in the number 10 spot. Me personally, though, I have Kamaru Usman. Moving on. Number 9, Merab Dvalishvili. Now, this is a recent addition to the GOAT list. Now, what I feel Lucas will jump the gun on is that he will say things like, title wins don't matter. And I do feel like that's an important thing to say so far, that a number 1 contendership can be more important than, or a better win than a championship win, right? You'd probably say like Merab's win over Henry Cejudo is probably better than Israel Adesanya's win over, I hate to bully him again, Marvin Vettori. You'd probably say that's accurate, or Peter Yan, or any of these guys you'd probably say are better wins than someone like Jorge Masvidal, you could probably say. In addition to this, I feel that a lot of older fighters who will get the belt much sooner than modern fighters with a lower competition pool, less people in the sport, you know, it's going to be easier, less people to compete with. Just because they have belts like BJ Penn, Randy Couture, guys like this, just because they have a lot of belts, a lot of championship wins, doesn't mean that we should necessarily just bump them up because of that. But I will say what championship medal does, as I will get into later with certain fighters that may not have as good as wins on paper as Merab, is when you're the champion, a lot of things are different. The whole division is training for you. The whole division is trying to change their skill set to prepare for you. Whether you want to say they take it more seriously is going to depend on the fighter. But in addition to that, there is a level of consistency that comes with fighting the best fighters over and over again, and fighting generally a multitude of different stylistic matchups that I feel can boost your status in the GOAT case. Now, I do think Merab, if he's still goes down to war, holy shit, English. If he still wins, if he goes beat Corey Sandhagen, beats Umar in a rematch, etc., assuming he still continues his legacy, he can go up the list. But the main reason why Merab is up here while yes, only having 2 title defenses, wins over Jose Aldo, Henry Cejudo, Peter Yan, Umar, Sean O'Malley. To me, that's one of the best legacies of all time. He's the bantamweight GOAT, definitely. I would say he's now definitively above Aljamain Sterling, Dominic Cruz, obviously Sean O'Malley. He is very well-rounded. Striking-wise, he's improved greatly, competing with Sean O'Malley on the feet. He is upgrading his skills with finishing ability. We already know his grappling is amazing. His cardio is amazing. He is someone that if I were to put him against other all-time legends that are about his size, I see him winning 9 times out of 10 besides guys like Volkanovski, Ilia Topuria, and higher divisions. But at his weight class, I can't see him really losing to anyone. Merab, what he lacks in is overall longevity, fighting just more people, more thanks to his belt, different styles, We need to see how he does being the person everyone's gunning for. In addition, you could say Sean O'Malley kind of got rushed the title shot and wasn't an amazing win, but overall, I think nitpicking a little bit. Guys above here, it's kind of to the point where I feel like everyone above here deserves to be here. While you can argue Usman and you can put some other people there, I think it's difficult to put anyone above Merab besides the other 8 fighters. Coming in at number 8, we have Ilia Topuria. Now, one fight ago, I would probably move Ilia either off the list or move him right below Merab. What was a big difference is, obviously, he became a 2-division world champion, moved up, knocked out Oliveira in the first round, and really solidified himself as an all-time great, in my opinion. Now, what sets Ilia apart from guys like Usman, Adesanya, guys who have long reigns, Anderson Silva as well, guys who have very long reigns and a lot of championship accomplishments, is A, he has better wins. I feel besides Alex Pereira, Max Holloway, not including Alexander Volkanovski, is better than all of those wins. Max Holloway is better than most of those wins. And Charles Oliveira is also better than most of those wins. In pure dominating fashion, beating all of them by KO in the first 2 rounds. Cold as well. Max Holloway being the only person that really, I would say him and Volk, skill for skill, gave Ilia some troubles, but this is where it kind of comes down to stylistic differences. There's certain fighters, such as Ilia, who fight in the way where they're going to get hit here and there, they're going to get tapped. Now, what I feel Ilia is going to lack in terms of going up on this list is A, he doesn't have a large volume of wins. He only has a handful of fights in the UFC. Need to see some more consistency. Need people to prepare for him more. People need to look at him like Paddy Pimblett, Armin, guys who are going to prepare the best for him and try to specifically beat him because he's a champion, which I think sets champions apart from contenders. Now, does it mean every single contender fight is worse than championship? No, but we can look at other fighters in terms of how they're going to prepare for Ilia and hold that in a higher regard than if they just fought him as a contender. But moving on, what Ilia lacks is, compared to other fighters, is A, the longevity of wins. In addition to that, stylistically, Ilia has struggled before with fights that he shouldn't have. So like Jai Herbert kicked him in the head, dropped him. Bryce Mitchell landed some shots on him. Volkanovski, while yes, he will go on to get caught, was doing really good against Ilia beforehand. Won the first round, was doing good. Max Holloway was giving him some troubles here and there. Certain things like this are going to not hurt Ilia, but it's not going to give me as much benefit of the doubt as I would for someone like Khabib, who may have worse wins on paper, but never struggled at any point of his career and was always the better fighter in the cage at all times, where Ilia has had moments to where he has been put on the back foot, he has been hurt, he has been outskilled. Volkanovski, you can say hypothetically, Volk does that for 5 rounds, he can beat a guy like Ilia. I do, and now don't get me wrong, as Ilia gets more wins, he's going to go up this list, but where lack of consistency matters, I need to look at previous performances and see if I can give you the benefit of the doubt in terms of being able to make up for the lack of overall total points. But nonetheless, moving on, Alexander Volkanovski. Now, how can I put Volk above someone who he got KO'd by at his weight division? Well, I'm not going to say that he just got KO'd by Islam, so therefore his loss over Ilya doesn't matter. I think Ilya technically beat Volk, and if Ilya fights Volk in the past, he can KO him like that again. There's a couple reasons why. A, Volkanovski fought a better opponent in Islam Makhachev. Until we see Islam fight Ilya, I can't just assume he gets knocked out cold. Now, if he knocks out Islam out cold, of course, Ilya is going to keep going up this list. But until then, in my opinion, he fought a better opponent in Islam and technically competed him with him very well. Still lost, but nonetheless fought a better opponent. I feel he has similar quality of wins in terms of beating Max Holloway twice and technically beating him, especially in that third fight, 4-5 rounds, where Ilya had some moments where he did struggle with Max, and it wasn't a complete dominating performance. Simply having a KO in impressive fashion isn't the same as just dominating someone, right? Someone to have a 5-round masterclass like Calvin Kattar, Max Holloway, that can be more impressive than a lot of first-round KOs, second-round KOs. He has longevity, a long record of wins over different styles of opponent, beating Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, Max Holloway, Brian Ortega, Yair Rodriguez. Coming back also after 2 losses, fighting Diego Lopez, who's one of the best of the division, technically beating him the whole fight besides getting caught one time, and overall having more consistency than Ilya. I do think Ilya will surpass Volk one day, but I need to see Ilya have more wins, fight more styles, technically beat people like how he did Charles Oliveira, where I do feel like he did beat Charles Oliveira technically pillar to post. I do need to see a little bit more from Ilya before I put him up there, but if you want to put Ilya above Volk, I think that's fine. Bigger detraction from Volk is the way he's lost against specifically the KOs, I feel weren't just flukes, right? It's not like he got grazed on the chin barely and just went out cold. He got head kicked by Islam, which is something that in a way that Volkanovski has shown to have holes in his game, where not pawing at the head kick, not, trying to move away with it, just trying to put his hand up. That's a technical mistake that he's made consistently, that Islam made a read from, and something that Islam tried landing in the first fight. While could he have done better? Not on short notice, potentially. And is that more impressive than Islam's first one? Probably not, but it's something that I can't just look at and dismiss entirely and be like, oh, short notice doesn't count. He got caught in a way that he has shown to be caught in the past when looking at other previous fights. In addition to this, when he lost to Ilia Topuria, Volkanovski, defensively, he has good movement, but can not escape in the safest way possible. When guys like Diego Lopez are catching you, Islam's able to catch him and drop him. I can't just say Ilya beat a washed Volk. When Volk A came back, and A technically looked really good in that fight, was fighting incredibly smart, but I just think Ilya technically was able to beat him in that way. Now I still feel that Volkanovski competed with Ilya and was technically looked to be better than Ilya in a lot of ways as compared to Islam, where I don't feel like Volkanovski was able to technically beat Islam consistently, more so in moments and have it back and forth. Nonetheless, the only fighter that I can say he's definitively worse than is Islam. Ilya, I'm still on the nose about, but if you want to put Ilya above Volk, then be my guest. Moving on, Demetrious Johnson. All right, let's have this talk about Demetrious Johnson. Demetrious Johnson didn't beat better fighters than Ilya. Yes, that's true. But A, he has fought multiple promotions. He's fought different styles. He's fought great size disadvantage against Adrian Moraes, I'm pretty sure, in one championship. He technically beat him. He also, in all his fights, besides the Henry Cejudo fight, he has consistently shown to me put a gap between him and his competition. Guys like John Dodson, Joseph Benavidez. Well, yes, you can say certain fighters like obviously Charles Oliveira, Volkanovski are definitely better than these guys, of course. I don't think Ilya set himself apart as much as Demetrious Johnson did with these guys. I don't feel that Ilia Topuria is as technically sound as a guy like Demetrius Johnson. And I feel that Demetrius Johnson has more longevity, more consistently, cleared out an entire division. The only blemish I feel he has is his second Henry Cejudo loss, where in a fight that, yes, you could argue he won, he still went back and forth with Henry Cejudo, where Henry Cejudo would later lose fights. But when looking at that fight, I feel it's important to mention that Henry Cejudo was fighting at a more natural weight class. They were fighting at the same size. People sometimes will like to diminish the size advantage that fighters will have and how that impacts fighting. I think look at Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. Israel Adesanya proved to be the better fighter between the two, at least technically, in terms of winning the majority of both fights and obviously KOing him out in the second round. But Alex Pereira was able to move up and do things that I don't feel like Israel could do. And to me, that's a size thing. That is something where Alex is a bigger frame. He's able to move up, be stronger, carry his power more. Size matters. And when Henry Cejudo, who is a good size flyweight but not a big bantamweight, goes on to struggle against bigger fighters like Aljamain Sterling later in his career when he's at a size disadvantage and an age disadvantage, it's not something that I'm going to diminish a crazy bit. I think if you make Aljamain Sterling shorter, smaller, I think if you make certain guys like this, you know, like more comparable size, I think it's a different fight, make him younger. Nonetheless, if you want to drop Demetrius Johnson by virtue of not having the craziest win, I think that's fine. But to me, his championship credit, I think having one of the most I think the second most championships of all time, technically being incredibly well-rounded, great ground, great striking, able to evolve and adapt his game as he goes on, fighting a big range of opponents, and overall coming out as the more skilled opponent, the more technically efficient opponent, the better fighter. 9 times out of 10, this is why I have Demetrius Johnson this high. Moving on to my top 5. Islam Makhachev. Now. Islam's interesting. Islam has a great balance of longevity. He has more title defenses than someone like Ilia Topuria and Merab. He has great wins over Volkanovski, technically beating him the first time. Now, he did have a side advantage. If there were more comparable sides, would Islam have the same success? Maybe not. But at the same time, you could also say he may be able to take down Volk easier. You could have some arguments. I think Volk's a pretty big featherweight. I think they fought pretty comparably, but you may be able to edge it to where Volkanovski were if he was a little bit bigger, a little bit better chin, a little bit more powerful, you know, give him a little bit more size, a little more lightweight build, that he could compete with him more. But to me, it's a little bit too speculative for me. In addition to that, finding the head kick in Volk in the second fight, I think that is something that he didn't like. My problem is that when people say, oh, short notice fight, to me, when you think about, okay, what's bad about being short notice? Your cardio is generally not going to be as good. You may not be as well conditioned, right? You may not be able to, you know, take a punch as well. May not be as sharp, your reaction, stuff like that. To me, those are things that you could generally see in a fight and be like, okay, this guy took it on short notice. He's not as good a shape. He's not this, that. But people also underestimate when you have a short notice fight, you also tend to have less injuries, right? You tend to not have those wear and tear. You have a fresh mind. You can sometimes change your weight class, for example, in Mavall versus Strickland, but there are benefits to both. Now, do I think it's obviously better to have a full camp? But to me, Islam hitting Volk with a head kick that Volk has been shown to be susceptible to in the past, I don't think that's something that I'm going to just diminish that win. I think that's still a good win. In addition to that, beating guys like Dustin Poirier, who's a top 5 lightweight of all time, beating Renato Moicano. While yes, Renato is not a great opponent, as we could saw with the Beto Dariush fight, as we've seen with other fights with Renato, just taking him down and submitting him easy like that is incredibly impressive. That's not something that everyone can do. In fights where he has fought lower level competition, such as Dan Hooker and Bobby Green, he has absolutely dominated him and put a big gap between him and his opposition. So with 4 title defenses, if he's able to win this second bout off JDM, he's going to go up higher. I'm probably going to have to put him top, either above the next guy, and it may be the guy after that. But it's a little bit, if he beats JDM, he's going to jump up to 1 or 2 spots at least. But I still feel he is worse than the next guy, who might be a little bit related to him. Might be able to guess who it is. Moving on to number 4, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Lucas, the best example as to why name value is not the most important thing all the time in performance matter as well. Look at Khabib's fight with Dustin Poirier and look at Islam's. Now, is it possible that Dustin Poirier got 10 times better wrestling defense in the span of how many years? Potentially. Maybe he wasn't trying that hard against Oliveira. Maybe he just, didn't decide that it wasn't as important. Maybe against Khabib, he just like, yeah, Gamrot just changed his game. That's possible. But to me, Islam fought an older, a more damaged Poirier who's been knocked out since then, who has taken injuries. He literally tore his hip mid in the fight, literally like destroyed his hip in the fight, and Islam still struggled to submit him. There's even a clip where if you see Khabib or Dustin tries to perform a switch on Khabib, he just doesn't. Khabib is able to, reverse it and, get dominant position off it. Works against Islam. Khabib, to me, well, yes, he doesn't have as good as wins as maybe Merab and Ilya or as much volume as like Volk. Maybe not. Where he makes up for that is arguably never losing a round. And in the rounds he has lost, it's been very close and has been very arguable against Justin Gaethje and Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor cheated. Justin Gaethje, I just don't know how you give him that round. He almost got submitted in the last couple seconds. Khabib has been able to implement his game better than anyone else, period. Ilya has been able to knock out a lot of these guys, but he's also been hurt in the striking. He's been dropped. He's been technically beat here and there. We've never seen Khabib be beat at his game or be competed with at his game. He has never seemed to be behind in a fight. He's always seemed to be the better fighter, been able to hurt his opponent, been able to drop Conor McGregor, being able to submit these guys easy, hasn't been rocked, hasn't been hurt, hasn't been cut. These matter. The level of dominance we've seen from him has never been replicated, period. Not by John Jones, not by GSP, not by Islam, none of that. Now, what hurts Khabib is obviously the aforementioned lack of overall wins. He doesn't have a large volume of wins. He doesn't have as many top-level wins as someone that Ilya, Merab, and Islam may have. And he doesn't have a lot of X factors that guys like GSP, Ilya has, Islam may have if he beats JDM, and that's going up and winning a second belt or going up divisions and fighting with a size disadvantage or an equal advantage, or having to not play that much bigger a factor. Khabib always fought in the division where he was either the bigger guy or he wasn't at a size disadvantage. To me, it's impressive when Ilya goes up against Oliveira, who is much bigger than him and is able to implement his will. Same thing with even Usman going up and fighting Khamzat, Volkanovski going up and fighting Islam. To me, these are very impressive things that Khabib not doing, unfortunately. In addition to this, sometimes a good thought exercise is to be, okay, maybe Khabib didn't beat Charles Oliveira, but do we really think that he couldn't beat him? Like, do we really think that he couldn't do it? Like, are we really gonna say that Oliveira technically beats Khabib? I just can't say that. Khabib gets a lot of benefit of the doubt because he dominated every single fighter, never got caught, never got hurt. Not this, he got pushed back a little bit by Michael Johnson and Dustin Poirier. But seeing how Islam competes with mutual opponents, to me, that's a big indicator as to why Khabib is still higher than Islam, still the greatest lightweight of all time. Beating Renato Moicano does not necessarily push you over because it's a bigger number. I'm not just going to be like, oh, Islam beat Renato Moicano, so he's just the lightweight GOAT. Now, I do think that Islam, if he beat Armin, probably you can put him above there depending on how he beat him. If Islam's able to move up, where maybe size for size, Khabib may be able to be better, but Islam being a bigger guy, being able to move up a division and dominate the division better than Khabib could, to me is enough to put Islam above him. So if Islam beats JDM, I will put him above Khabib. If he beats him, he will go against the next person who, moving on to probably one of the more controversial names on here, Daniel D.C. Cormier. Shout out bedtime, man. He was this close to getting why he's up this high. Let's start off with the easy one. John Jones is the GOAT. Spoiler alert, he's number one. At worst, number two. Losing to him, all that means is that DC is not the GOAT. That's all that means. Biggest thing is Stipe. In my opinion, when Bedtime in a recent video just said, oh, they're both old, so it doesn't matter. I think that's gotta take a little bit deeper look there. DC was much older than Stipe. You can look in the performances from his fight and see that in his third fight especially, he looked much worse than his previous fights. And I'm not saying that the eye poke that Stipe landed was enough to like change the fight completely, that he wouldn't have won otherwise, but let's not act like that doesn't diminish the quality of the fight in terms of how we can objectively look who's a more skilled fighter. In the second fight, DC was winning the whole time. He got hit with body shots, and while that was a great adjustment, Stipe didn't show to be the better fighter. And when you saw in the third fight, when DC saw that coming, he was able to adapt and change his game. And the body shots, he couldn't just destroy DC with them again. DC also fights at an incredible size disadvantage, fought at an age disadvantage to most fighters, including DC and Stipe. He fought without having a great X factor. He doesn't have crazy power necessarily. He's, has great cardio, of course, but fighting doing that, what he is above against Stipe as well, even if you want to say they're comparable at heavyweight, he dominated a second division, is the second greatest at that division. He beat the top level guys, dominated Rumble Johnson, defended his belt, beat Volkan Oezdemir, Alexander Gustafsson. In the second fight against Jones before getting kicked in the head, he was skill-wise competing with Jones greatly, and in my opinion, winning, if not being, just about evens with him until that head kick happened. And to me, if you want to say that if DC didn't have Jon Jones, he'd be the GOAT, to me that just means he's just above everyone else besides Jon Jones. The only real contention here is whether or not you think Stipe showed to be the better fighter through the trilogy. To me, DC showed to be the better one by virtue of looking worse as he got older, technically being able to adapt to the body shots, beating Stipe the first time, skillfully beating him the second time before getting caught with the body shots, and in the third fight getting poked in the eye, being way older, looking way worse, in a fight that I'm not going to take as seriously. In addition to that, he also has 2 belts, defended both longevity, consistency, multiple organizations, Strikeforce, started when he was older. Just in general, to me, DC is number 3. He's better than people than like Khabib because he has multiple weight divisions, fought better opponents. Islam, if he does beat JDM, you may be able to argue he can go above DC. To me, it's still arguable, but Islam, at that point will have beaten better opponents on paper, have the weight divisions, especially if he goes up, wins the welterweight belt, and defends it. I think at that point, we're talking about someone that may be number 2, close to number 1 all time. Moving on to number 2, Georges St. Pierre. He's a hard guy to rank. He doesn't have great wins. He just doesn't. Matt Hughes, okay win. BJ Penn, okay win. What GSP has over other people is avenging all his losses. He skill-wise looked better than every single opponent. The only person who struggled was Johnny Hendricks at the end of his career. Say what you want about Michael Bisping. I don't hold him that high in terms of an opponent. It's not the reason why he's here, but still, size-wise, going up with a big size disadvantage. GSP is not a big middleweight. He's not a middleweight size. To me, he's small. In addition to having a lot of health problems, taking 4 years off from welterweight, moving on, dominating Michael Bisping, dropping him, choking him out, having a long career on being on top for multiple years, multiple generations, fighting multiple different styles, fighting Matt Hughes, Nick Diaz, Carlos Condit, all these guys, only getting caught here and there. The only weakness being sometimes getting caught with his chin, with a head kick, stuff like that. But skill-wise, he has always put a gap between his opponents. Josh Koscheck dominated him. Jake Shields dominated him. All these guys he was able to, besides at the end of his career against Johnny Hendricks, who I'd say would be the biggest blemish on his record, he has shown to be skillfully better than these guys. Did he get submitted by Matt Hughes? Yes, but then he went on to dominate him 2 more times. Did he get caught by Mancera? Yes, but he showed to be the more skilled, better fighter in the rematch. It's one thing for Volkanovski to fight Islam and be outskilled for 5 rounds and losing a competitive decision, yes, but showing to be the worst fighter between the two, than GSP, who gets caught here and there. And yeah, the armbar is there. He should have held it out, at a very young point in his career. GSP, to me, has championship accolades. He's been at the top. Everyone's training to beat GSP. He is someone that was able to adapt his game to a higher division, being a smaller guy. He's able to have a very well-rounded game, having great wrestling, great striking, able to adapt, go from a striker to a grappling heavy game, and overall showed to do what other fighters can't. The reason why someone like GSP is good, someone like Usman, is Kamaru Usman, as he got older, wasn't able to have as consistent performances. He got caught by Leon, sure, But it was because a hole in Usman's game was how he moves around. He didn't just get caught with a lucky shot. He didn't get hit on the guard, and then got KO'd. He got technically worked in a way that showed a hole in his game, in his boxing defense, his kickboxing, where Leon was able to do it. In that third fight against Leon, well, yes, you can argue that Usman won, or Usman got a draw out of it. It's because of point deductions. And as we've seen later with his fight against Joaquin Buckley and Hamza, I don't think it's enough for me to just be like, oh, that was a fluke one-off performance. To me, that still hurts your go case if you just aren't as consistent as other guys. But Leon Edwards showed to be someone that technically was able to compete with Usman and beat him most of the time. While do I think Leon's better than Usman? Not necessarily. Do I think there's nice that Usman's wins? Yes. But seeing how those fights, not just saying, oh, well, Usman lost to Leon Edwards twice. Leon Edwards, it was a draw. Look at the fight. He is comparable skill-wise to Leon Edwards, someone who later got dominated by Sean Brady, got beaten by Bilal, someone that you can pinpoint these performances and look at what happened with Kamaru Usman and other fights. Colby Covington was rocking him. I don't want to have this whole rant about Usman, but nonetheless, that's why GSP is this high. Being able to use his skill set and runs multiple divisions, multiple different people, always being the more skilled fighter in the arena, in the cage, always being able to impose his will on people, adapt his game. That's why GSP's number 2. Moving on to fucking number 1, I guess. Fucking John Jones. Good job, you dumb fucking stupid fucking prick. Fuck you. I don't know how to say it. I don't really want to talk about Jones. But I'll start off by saying that yes, Jones has worse wins than Ilya. Yes. What does he have above Ilya? He has never been the worst fighter in the cage. In the later point of a career against Dominic Reyes, did he lose that fight and get technically beat in my opinion? Yes. Does it have an indicator as to whether or not someone like Islam can surpass him one day? I believe so. I don't think he's untouchable as the GOAT. But I'm going to give more benefit of the doubt to that performance than someone like Ilya, because John Jones has shown to be better than someone like DC. In the first fight, he just technically beat him for 5 rounds. He just had that is probably the most objective way of looking at a fight and being like, okay, Jones is just better than DC. In the second fight, he showed to perform worse. And to me, that is something to show that he has holes in his game. Moving up though, say what you want about him beating Shurigan. Shurigan is someone who you could either beat Francis Ngannou, or at the very least was very tied with him. Now, he did have a big hole in his game that Jones was able to exploit, so I'm not holding in crazy regard. Stipe, who gives a fuck? Who cares? He beat him though, showed to be a better fighter. Thiago Santos showed to be the better fighter. Early in his career, yes, in Alexander Gustafsson, the first fight, he struggled and had a very competitive fight. As we saw in the rematch, he was able to, when he took it seriously, was able to take down Gustafsson, TKO, and outstrike him on the feet. Overall, John Jones, besides against Dominic Reyes, has always been the clearly better fighter out of the two. In addition to that, starting off as the youngest champion and fighting till he's about, for 14 years, able to adapt and change his game from multiple different styles, being probably the most well-rounded fighter in terms of, there's not a fighter in history that I don't think John Jones could at the very least arguably beat. Like if you made Islam his side, if you made Khabib his side, against all these guys who are in the lighter weight divisions, I think John Jones skill for skill compete with all of them. Did he have some holes in his game? Yes, his boxing defense isn't the best. He fought fighters past their prime. DC when he was much older with a big size advantage. When he was younger, when Stipe was way fucking older. I just think you could say it like that, but at the end of the day, you cannot look at John Jones' fights. You cannot look at how he performs and not acknowledge the skill difference that he has put over all of his opponents. Was Shogun Rua in his prime? Hell no, he dominated him. Was Lyoto Machida some crazy opponent? No, but he dominated him out skill for skilled him. He was able to game plan against his opponent. He has probably the highest fight IQ in the whole sport. He is someone that has so much championship accolades in terms of consistently winning it, that the only argument you can make against him is that he has a steroids. To me, it's pretty clear that John Jones is the GOAT. it's hard to argue. GSP has been tied, he's been hurt, he's been rocked, Johnny Hendricks arguably beat him. Khabib doesn't have the same longevity as Jones. He has the same dominance and he has great wins that are comparable to Jones, but he doesn't have the same stand-up, hasn't shown to be able to beat someone like DC. Khabib never fought someone who was an amazing grappler. He didn't fight like an Arman. He didn't fight someone like this. So it's difficult when you do that. Demetrius Johnson doesn't have the same level of wins. Volkanovski's lost. Ilya could do it as he goes on, but to me hasn't shown the same dominance and skill gap as other people. Merab, same thing. He's lost before, has unanswered loss. Skill-wise, doesn't seem to be on the same level as Jones. And Kamaru Usman hasn't shown to be as consistent, not as skilled as Jones. Simple. Do I want him to be on this list? No, fuck no. I want GSP to number one. I want fucking anyone else on the list to be number one. I think Islam out of everyone right now has the highest chances of becoming number one. Ilya as well, Merab, these guys are probably going to go up the list, but nonetheless, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think. I think this is an incredibly objective list. I think I've given good reason. I think I've shown the best balance of Lucas Tracy just saying, this name, modern, good win, he goes. Kenny Okoye. Israel Adesanya actually beat Robert Whittaker twice, and with this win, and actually Kamaru Usman, you know what I mean, fuck all that. Bedtime and a list. I think this is the best list by far, most objective, best criteria, showing and explaining why championships matter, showing why skill matters, showing that why you can't just be like Ilya beats 3 modern opponents, so he's the GOAT. Same thing with Islam, he's not the fucking GOAT. Nonetheless, hope you all enjoyed it. Hope you have a good one. Have a good day.